Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
The opening words from 2B are some of the most important words as we go into this journey of NierAutomata. But hello, I hope you are all doing well. I for the first time a couple of days ago finally played through and beat all 5 main endings of NierAutomata. It was a journey, to say the least. I couldn't find the right words to describe the feeling I got from playing this game for the first time. It felt like my emotions would play with from the start, and for the game's idea of deception it was playing into, something that director Yoko Taro was great at doing. This game was nothing short of a roller coaster, and after sitting a couple of days to ponder on it, I think I finally know what to say when it comes to this game. I absolutely love the way the game hints at a cycle of depression. Which sounds a bit odd, but hear me out. I don't like depression, but the way the devs were able to incorporate it throughout the game, whether it was masking behind fun moments or whether it was right in your face, the cycle that this game portrays just leaves me in awe. This game is just profound from the perspective of showing depleting moments from our cast and from the world. I think in this video I want to portray how the game incorporates that hidden depression, along with showing what moments in the game are the most profound to me. Keep in mind though, this is my first time experiencing this behemoth of a story, so I might seem all over the place at some times. I apologize for that. This game has so many layers it's hard to peel back just in one playthrough. If I somehow miss anything or maybe there's something you might have noticed, just let me know. Also, I don't want to just give a story recap because that's been done before. I want to put my own spin and perspective on this game. This game isn't by any means new as well, so I'm not sure if I'm just repeating what has been said before, but I still want to give my perspective, my thoughts and opinions on this mind-bending product. So with all of that out of the way, if you want to hear me talk about NierAutomata for a bit, you'll fit right in. But now, let's get into the eternal depression of NierAutomata. One of the main things I knew coming into this game was that Yoko Taro's ability to tell a story were nothing short of fantastic. I had the experience of playing NieR Replicant this year, and it's one of the best games I've played from a narrative standpoint. I know this video isn't about Replicant, but I believe it's important to state where I'm at and how Replicant plays into Automata. Also, if you want to hear about my perspective about Replicant, I'll leave a link to one of my videos below. But Replicant kind of fixed my mind into understanding the mind of the universe of NieR. Whether it was the story or characters, I adjusted my mind into understanding what NieR was. And now insert Automata, in the same universe as Replicant, but instead we take perspective of multiple YoRHa units, 2B, 9S, and A2. And the seed of this cycling depression doesn't take long to be introduced to the player, as 2B's internal monologue sets the seeds into what's to come. Her first words are very important to get a grasp on the idea of this cycling depression. She says it herself, and I quote, "We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending cycle of life and death." And from these words on, I made sure to remember those words, as they were the first words we heard for a reason. And from this point on, we were appointed as 2B to essentially carry out our mission to destroy these rogue robots taking over Earth, fighting for YoRHa, the group of androids made to help out humanity. And as we finally start scaling Earth, the music that plays captures this idea of this cycling depression in my opinion. This use of a few keys with this underlying eeriness to the sound. The music makes me think of some sort of moment of depression, constantly hearing these low-toned keys. The music in the NieR series are always good points to look at when it's time to capture the essence of what the game is trying to tell you. Now that we addressed some moments, the 2B spoken word and the music itself, let's get into bits of the story where I feel like that depression cycle was captured even better. One of the first moments regarding this cycle were after 2B and 9S's first mission. 2B and 9S were essentially finished up until the point of using their black boxes, which essentially made them self-destruct. But upon waking up in the bunker again, 2B and 9S meet once again. 2B then thanking 9S for uploading her data to the bunker before they blew up. But what 9S says is very important when it comes to the early foreshadowing of this depressive cycle.
Yeah?
Thank you for uploading my data to the bunker.
I did that? Sorry, I don't remember. There wasn't a whole lot of bandwidth down there, you know? I probably only had enough time to back up your memories. Mine are only intact up to the point just before we rendezvoused.
I see.
Glory to mankind.
Glory to mankind.
That scene during my first run of the first ending was a bit confusing at the time. I didn't understand why 2B might have been upset or angry, as you can see her clenching her fist. But then it hit me. Finally, I understood why 2B was so upset. Let's go back to the very important first words. 2B says it herself, about the cycle of life and death, and what God keeps putting her through this cycle. This scene was one of the early indications of this cycle. 2B realized what's being done. 9S never uploaded her data to the bunker. I could be wrong, but I believe he didn't. He says it himself. A higher power is keeping 2B here, the cycle she keeps getting thrown into. I want to fast forward in the story a bit. Let's go take the perspective of 9S, 2B's male counterpart. He's actively with 2B throughout the entirety of the first portion of the game. And in the playthrough of the second ending, Ending B, we take control of 9S and are now controlling him. And just in similar fashion to 2B's intro, we get a very important opening segment.
Brother, please start moving. Brother. Brother, wait a minute. Brother. Just a little more. Brother.
Doesn't matter how much oil you give him, little guy. You can't make a machine your brother.
This scene is so important to me not only because of the narrative standpoint, but it also fits perfectly with the cycle of depression. Now we learn early on that these robots invading Earth are the bad guys per se. And us as the androids working for YoRHa, we are here to eliminate them. And in that same process, we don't care for their feelings, or whatever words they might have to say. But as we go on with our journey, we see certain situations where robots are passive, or showing some sort of emotion. And this being the first scene of Ending B's route just fits perfectly. This poor robot who wants his brother to wake up is trying over and over to pour some oil on him, over and over. A cycle of doing the same thing, with no avail. His sadness or depression of losing his brother keeps him locked in this cycle, trying to convince himself that this oil can really help him, when it can't. And speaking of these robots with emotions, I want to speak on the encounters we have with certain robots. As you saw earlier, some robots are capable of having emotion, or at least on the surface they are. A lot of the times when we encounter these passive robots, it's usually to do some task or it's to hear some interesting dialogue or whatnot. With these robots being so prevalent in the story, I wanted to understand where they came from and why they think like they do. And obviously while playing the game, you understand that these robots came from a higher power, the network that they are being controlled by. But I'm not here to talk about the network per se, but I am vastly interested by the robots who aren't a part of that network. Like I said previously, we meet a ton of different robots throughout our journey. And honestly, that in itself is part of this depressive cycle. Let me explain why. A lot of the times when we were asked to complete the task of some of these robots, we end up learning why they set up for those tasks to begin with, and why they might think like they do. Or in some cases, we get to really dig deep into their thoughts. One of the robots that stood out to me the most was one of the wisdom robots. Robots that we encounter at random spots throughout the world. Those robots are constantly gazing into the distance, with no words to speak of. And the only way to interact with them is by having 9S hack into their minds, which then sparks the inner thoughts of the robot. And for robots that we had assumed from the start were just some thoughtless beings trying to kill us, they actually have so much depth to them. It makes you feel bad a bit. At first it was always about just slaying these robots because that's our duty, but as we look into certain robots, it's obvious that they are confused as well. My favorite wisdom robot has to be the last one we encounter, as he is gazing over the giant pit in the middle of the map. And of course, like the others, we are to hack into its mind to see what it's thinking. Here's what he has to say.
We were created to fight, to eliminate all others and reside at the pinnacle of existence. Yet the battle rages eternal.
believe that thing decided to end itself.
That interaction is such an important one to me because it shows that not only are the androids in a deep cycle, but so are these robots. The line that caught my attention was when it said, and I quote, "We are created to fight, to eliminate all others and reside at the pinnacle of existence. Yet the battle rages internal. Our cursed cycle of destruction and rebirth continues without end." The connection that 2B first words have and this wisdom robot have are so deeply rooted. Two different beings that feud for years but both had this same eternal depression. They are both trapped in the cycle of depression. It's like this whole time they have been fighting in vain. I will continue to reference that 2B first word bit because it set the foundation of what's to come, and interactions like this only prove it more. And mind you, this is a completely optional task. You don't even have to encounter this robot to get the true ending of the game. And that to me adds even more appreciation for the writing of these encounters. Completely missable but important nonetheless. And I also wanted to point out that a lot of these robot interactions kind of end the same way. A lot of the times where these robots find some closure or something along those lines, they end up just dying. Which is weird but also plays a bit into this depressive cycle. I think the game uses robots blowing up at the end of a task as a kind of a funny bit sometimes. Like, oh, he blew up, that's funny. But in reality, it's kind of just sad. At the end of somebody's task or whatnot, these robots will kind of just die. And we see it so much too. This happens plenty with a lot of these friendly robots throughout the city ruins. One that comes to mind is the Father Servo robot. A robot where you keep getting him new parts so he can build himself anew, each time wanting a fight after. And after the final fight with him, he has to keep going, to the death. Almost as this fight was what he was living for. And it's funny too, 9S has some interesting choice words after you finally kill him.
About goddamn time. If I ever see that bossy robo-monk again, it'll be too soon, let me tell ya.
I suppose.
Stupid machine. All he cared about was getting stronger until we finally scrapped him. But now we don't have to see him ever again. What a relief.
Indeed.
I think the game is again using the death trope and trying to mask it over the cruel words of 9S. Because what we did was just kill Father Servo. He's gone. But the game is again trying to hide that depressing moment. The cycle of depression once again. Hopefully up to this point now you understand what this cycle of depression is. It's a multitude of different things happening in the world of NierAutomata. Whether it's the 2B life cycle, the Android life cycle, the hiding and masking of depressing moments, the music used. To me, this game has so many interesting angles when it comes to showing depression, in many ways and bigger ways. But that's what depression is. I think one of the most important things the devs did were just understanding the impact of depression. So then when making the game, it can magnify those sad moments, to make these emotional impacts of NierAutomata just hit that much harder. It's almost like there's no happy moments here, of course until the final ending. As 2B once said, we are stuck in a never-ending cycle of life and death, and that to be the truth. But like I said earlier, this isn't a story recap video or anything, but I do want to touch on the ending, as it is a very much appropriate ending in breaking this cycle. This whole game and theme of this video was about a cycle, being in a depressing, never-ending loop. 2B, 9S, and A2 aware of this. The more endings you beat, the thinner the cycle becomes. That's why 2B's opening words were so important. She let us know from the start it's a loop. At the end, 9S and A2 are fighting at the network's core. With the passing of 2B earlier in the game, 9S turned bloodlust, searching for A2, and A2 being the one who killed 2B at her request. 2B's memory stored within A2's sword now. With the defeat of the network, they both knew what had to happen next. At last, the battle was over. Both 9S and A2 taking one's life. 9S taking A2's life, and A2 taking 9S's. With the use of 2B's memories confined in A2's sword, it's almost as if the cycle had ended here. All of the main characters in the end took each other's lives. One way or another, all connected in the end though. But that's not all. This is unironically one of the best endings in all of gaming to me. Not only for the ending, but for the message. At the end of Ending D, and after getting ending A, B, C, and now D, you're able to access ending E, the end of YoRHa. While the ending credits play, we actually get interrupted from the game's pods. Pods who were with 2B and 9S the entirety of the game, essentially acting as our guides. They were manufactured by YoRHa to oversee the lives of 2B and 9S. The pods almost grew to love 9S and 2B, growing emotionally attached to them within the confines of the game. The pods then express those feelings to one another. While not programmed to be attached to these two, they end up doing it anyways, asking one another, "You want to save them, don't you?" And whilst picking S, you're now initiated into a minigame against the developers. This is one of the most mind-bending realizations of NierAutomata. The cycle that you were thrusted into was by the game's developers, the people who set this journey and made 2B, 9S, and A2 into beings. And being able to break that cycle by quite literally destroying them is such an awesome concept and realization. You're breaking through the cycle. And this isn't just you breaking the cycle, it's others around the world. People helping you fight in this minigame to destroy this cycle we are all trapped in. And after all of that, once defeating the last developer, we get this.
Everything that lives is designed to end. They are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. However, life is all about the struggle within this cycle. That is what we believe. Pod 153 to Pod 042. How is it going?
I am embarrassed.
Why is that?
I launched a suicide attack, and yet, here I am, still alive. I must look very silly.
Do not feel bad about it. We are alive, after all. And being alive is pretty much a constant stream of embarrassment.
That concept is a bit too abstract for me to understand at this time. I will save it in my list of things to analyze later.
Question, Pod 042. Did the data salvage restore all of their past memories?
Yes.
And are those recovered parts of the same design as previous ones?
Yes.
Then, won't that simply lead us to the same conclusion as before?
I cannot deny the possibility. However, the possibility of a different future also exists. A future is not given to you. It is something you must take for yourself.
Pod 153's first words were those of 2B's at the beginning of the game. They came full circle, just as cycles do. And in that we see 2B, 9S, and A2 once repaired. And one line in particular caught my ear. After Pod 153 asked about 2B and 9S's parts, the pod then asked, "Then won't that simply lead us to the same conclusion as before?" And Pod 042 replies, "I cannot deny that possibility. However, the possibility of a different future also exists. A future isn't given to you. It's something you must take for yourself." One of the best endings I've ever experienced. The full circle moment from the start. The realization of not being in the cycle anymore. The ability to grasp your own future. It's the perfect ending to 2B, 9S, and A2's cycle of depression. This game, man. As someone who was a huge fan of Replicant, and also for someone who really just started getting into gaming not too long ago, it's kind of crazy this game just flew under my radar. Regardless of how late I am, I'm still grateful to have experienced this beautiful, depressing story. And I hope you all enjoyed as well. If anyone made it to the end of this video, I greatly appreciate it. I hope my spin on this story was a bit of something new. There's so many layers, I'm sure people have peeled back everything. But still, thank you. But that's all for me. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you. and goodbye.